All right, let's talk about a company that has totally changed the way we all furnish our homes, IKEA. I mean, they've built this massive global empire on a business model that seems so simple on the surface, but is actually revolutionary. So we're going to dig in and figure out exactly how they pulled it off.
I mean, seriously, how can a bookshelf cost less than a large pizza? It sounds kind of crazy, right? But that question gets right to the very heart of their success. And while it seems totally impossible, IKEA has spent decades perfecting a system to make it a reality. So let's break down how they do it.
And this quote from the founder, Ingvar Kamprad, just hits the nail on the head. See, for IKEA, it's not just about being cheap. It's about achieving that low price through brilliant, incredibly efficient design. That single idea is the foundation for everything we're about to talk about. Okay, so let's dive right into that core philosophy. This is the mission, the DNA that drives every single product decision they make.
You know, IKEA started out super humbly. We're talking a small mail-order business in a Swedish farming village, started by a teenager, Ingvar Kamprad, with some prize money his dad gave him for getting good grades. Pretty cool, right? But the real game changer, the moment everything shifted, was in 1956. That's when the flat pack was born. That one single idea, well, it set the stage for explosive growth, turning this tiny venture into the global giant we know today.
At the very heart of all this success is a concept they call democratic design. And listen, this isn't just some fluffy marketing slogan. No way. It's a really strict framework, a set of rules. Every single product, I mean everything, from a sofa down to a kitchen spatula, has to pass this test. And here's the really brilliant part. It's the constant battle between these five principles. Just think about it for a second. How do you make something that looks good, works well, and is built to last, while also making it sustainable and ridiculously cheap? I mean, most companies would have to give up on one of those, right? They'd sacrifice quality for price, but not IKEA. If a new product design fails on even one of these 5 points, it's back to the drawing board. It's this incredible, relentless balancing act.
All right, let's talk about the big one, the innovation that unlocked their entire business model.
So, the flat pack revolution. You'd think it came from some big, fancy border meeting, right? Nope, it came from a super simple, everyday problem. Picture this. It's 1956, and an employee is trying to cram a table into a customer's car. It just won't fit. So what does he do? He saws the legs off. And that aha moment, that simple act, it changed absolutely everything. And from that one idea, you get this huge domino effect of savings. Think about it. When you flat pack something, you're not shipping a bunch of empty air. That means shipping and storage costs go way, way down. But here's the real genius move. They basically transferred the final job of assembly and getting it home to us, the customers. That alone saves them an absolute fortune. And this wasn't just some one-off trick. It became their core strategy. IKEA had this huge realization. They weren't just in the furniture business anymore. They were in the logistics business. So they started designing products not just for how they'd look in your living room, but for how efficiently they could make the entire journey from the factory floor all the way to your front door. And you can really see how obsessed they are with this. Get this. A lot of their designers don't start with a sketch of a chair. They start with the size of a shipping pallet and work backwards from there, making sure the product fits perfectly like a game of Tetris. They check every single millimeter of packaging. Their motto says it all. We hate transporting air. Okay, so this obsession with efficiency, it's literally in their DNA. And it goes way beyond just logistics. It touches every single part of the business. I mean, the founder himself said it best. Wasting resources is a mortal sin at IKEA. A mortal sin. For them, wasting anything, money, materials, even time, is the absolute worst thing you can do. And that idea guides their whole operation. They developed this really interesting way of thinking about it, especially during the 2008 recession. They split costs into two buckets, good costs and bad costs. Good costs are things that you, the customer, actually value. Think about the restaurants, the meatballs, the childcare centers in the stores. Those are good costs. Bad costs? That's all the unnecessary stuff. Fancy corporate offices, first-class flights for executives. All that gets cut, and cut ruthlessly. And to keep those product costs down, they've built this absolutely massive global network. We're talking more than 1,600 suppliers all over the world. This gives them huge bargaining power, right? It lets them find the perfect, most cost-effective place for every single material. Need rugs? They go to India. Need wood? They source it from Poland. It's all about specialization.
Now, what's really interesting is that this obsession with cutting costs has this amazing side effect. It pushes them towards sustainability. You can see here that back in 2021, a whopping 73% of their raw materials were either renewable or recycled. Using things like particle board or sawdust, the leftovers from other processes, isn't just a way to save a buck. It's a huge part of their push for a circular economy.
But being this efficient doesn't mean they're perfect. Not at all. In fact, one of the most interesting things about IKEA's culture is that they actually embrace failure. They see it as a necessary and, yeah, sometimes expensive, part of trying new things. And there's no better example than the legendary failure of the air sofa back in the 80s. The idea was wild. Inflatable furniture. Sounds cool, right? Well, in reality, it was a total disaster. The plastic created static, so it was a magnet for dust. It was super uncomfortable, and it was so light that it would literally float around the room if a door opened too fast. The employees even had a nickname for it, a gathering of swollen hippos. Total failure, but hey, they learned a ton from it.
So that brings us to today. How does this finely tuned model actually hold up? Can a system that was built for a stable, predictable world survive in the crazy, unpredictable era we're in now?
Well, the pandemic was pretty much the perfect storm for IKEA. On one side, you had their supply chain getting absolutely hammered, factories shutting down, shipping was a mess. But on the other side, you had demand going through the roof because everyone was stuck at home wanting to redecorate. It was this crazy situation that exposed a major weakness. Their model was super efficient, but it wasn't very flexible. So this crisis forced them to pivot, and pivot fast. IKEA basically had to become a digital-first company overnight. And you can see just how massive that shift was. They slammed the accelerator on e-commerce, and online sales exploded, growing by a staggering 73% in just 1 year. It went from being a small part of their business to over a quarter of all sales. Just incredible.
And they're not stopping there either. They're trying all sorts of new things. They're opening up smaller stores right in the middle of cities so you don't have to drive out to the suburbs. They're pouring money into tech, like their IKEA Place app that uses augmented reality to let you see how a couch would look in your own living room. They're even experimenting with full-blown virtual reality shopping experiences. Which brings us to the big final question. The IKEA model, the whole flat pack system, was perfected for the 20th century. It was all about mass production and efficiency. But we're now in a world that's all about digital, about customization, about being able to adapt. So the question is, can this flat pack giant successfully reassemble itself for the future?